Hi, I'm Cliff, and this is my garage. I once heard that you should never try to change your own oil in a Porsche. Well, after all these years, I think I finally understand why these people think this, and today we're going to test whether or not they're right. Hey, welcome back to the garage. And if this is your first time joining me, thanks for dropping by. So, like I was saying, many years ago, someone told me that part of the problem with owning a fancy car like a Porsche, or a Porsche in specific is what they were talking about. They were saying you can't even do your own maintenance. You can't even do your own oil changes. And at the time, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Fancy, expensive car. It must be some special tools or something. And I never really questioned it. But then once I actually reached the point in life where I became a Porsche owner, I started questioning this. Well, why would they think this? And I think I finally understand what they were getting at. And what I believe they were talking about is the fact that Porsches and many other exotic sports cars have a flat engine. And this means in the case of Porsche, it's a flat six. They've had flat six engines for very many, many years. And part of the reason is to make the engine compact. You put the cylinders opposite to each other so the configuration of the cylinders is flat versus a V in many engines, or even like an inline where it's just a straight vertical cylinder, straight vertical cylinders. And there's other variations, like for instance, a slant six engine, stuff like that. But with a flat six engine, you do that to get a low center of gravity. And then to get an even lower center of gravity, now the Cayman and many other Porsches and other sports cars have a dry sump oil system. Now, in a traditional engine, at the bottom of the engine, there's like a big oil pan or sump, big, deep pan where the oil gets circulated around through the engine. And then once it gets back to the bottom, it all collects down in this deep sump. And the oil pump picks it up out of there, pushes it through the filter, and then back up into the engine again. Well, to get the engine as low as possible in the car, they do away with that sump hanging on the bottom. And they go to what's called a dry sump system, where the oil reservoir is elsewhere in the car. It doesn't have this big oil pan at the bottom. Now, where this comes into play with the whole idea of an oil change is what you do with an oil change is you pick one end of the car up usually to get underneath it. And when you do that, you can upset the balance between the engine and the oil sump. Now the engine and the drain plug are higher than the sump is, and it doesn't drain properly. The whole thing boils down to supposedly, if you're going to change the oil in a flat six engine, you have to keep the car perfectly flat. You have to lift it up so that it remains level. And typical home mechanic, DIY mechanic, you're not going to do that because you just don't know to do it. There's no reason you can't. You can lift up both ends of the car, put in 4 jack stands so you remain level. The question is it really necessary? Is this idea where the car has to remain level in order to properly drain the oil, is it fact or is it fiction? Is it an urban myth? Well, I think I come up with a way to test this out. What I've done is I've put the Cayman here in my hydraulic lift and I'm going to pick it up. Now I could do this by just using like a low, what's this called? A low rise, a very short jack to pick it up because this car is pretty low to the ground. And in order to get underneath it, you got to pick it up pretty high, which kind of exacerbates the out of level problem. So I could use a jack like that in order to pick it up and put it on jack stands and do this test. But I've got the hydraulic lift. Why not use it? So I've put it in the hydraulic lift, but I've only put the back 2 arms in. And that way I'm going to simulate picking up the back end with a regular jack and putting it on jack stands. Then I'm going to drain the oil, see how much I get. I'm going to weigh it, And this engine holds 8 quarts. And so you never totally drain an engine. I mean, not that you don't, you can't perfectly drain it out. And there's also going to be a quart or so trapped in the oil filter. So if we get out 6.5 quarts, even 7 quarts, we'll know that we are not dealing with reality. It doesn't affect it that much. If we get something less than that, well, maybe we've got something. If we only get like 3 or 4 quarts, we probably kind of confirmed it. But to be sure, I'm going to put the drain plug back in, put it back on the ground, put the front arms in, and then I'm going to wait for, I don't know, a while, half an hour, give it a chance to settle back down. And then I'm going to pick it up level with the lift, take the drain plug back out, and see if we get a lot more oil. And again, if we get a lot more oil, we've confirmed that it's a problem. Not that you can't get around it by using 4 jack stands, but you do need to do it to get a proper oil change, because the last thing you want to do is only drain out 4 or 5 quarts and put in 8. That would be bad. Now, I really shouldn't have to do this, but just in the case, just in the sake of safety, since I'm using a lift in kind of an unusual way, I'm going to put a jack stand underneath each arm. There we go. Check our, okay, oh yeah, that is rock solid stable. I think we're good to go. All right, I'm under the car here. Got my oil catch pan ready. This is an 8mm Allen wrench. And hopefully I can do this without resorting to an impact driver or something. Not sure I have an 8mm Allen socket or driver. All right. Oh, and if you're in the market for some really great nitrile gloves, these are called Glove Works, I think. I think it's Glove Works. I'll look that up and make sure. They're twice as thick as a normal nitrile glove, so they hold up really well. They have this nice textured pattern on them. Gives you a good grip. Yeah, I like them quite a lot. All right, get hold of this and okay, that wasn't bad at all. I better move this under here. I took my catch pan and I drained it very carefully to make sure there was no oil in it. Boy, these have a good, I can't, it's like kind of sticky. Not sticky, but just it won't. I'm having trouble getting it out with just my fingers. There it goes. Okay. Alrighty. Let's see how much oil we get. So it's taken quite a while for this oil to quit draining out. And there was something I read along the way that said that it took a long time for the last bits of oil to drain out. And I don't know if they were talking about changing it this way with just a rear lifter, if it was lifting it flat. I don't know, but this, in my experience, it doesn't normally take this long for the oil to stop draining out of an engine. This is just insane how long this just keeps going and going. I keep thinking it can't keep this up much longer. It keeps getting, thinner and thinner, but it's still a constant, steady stream. It's not drips at all. Finally, It has stopped streaming and just started dripping, so I think that's good. Okay, I've left it for about 5 minutes. I don't see any drips at all, so I'm going to pull the oil pan or the oil catch basin thing I've got on the floor and weigh the oil. Actually, before I weigh the oil, I think I'm going to go ahead and get the car back to level. Okay, now put the arms under and then we'll be ready to pick it back up. I started out by weighing 1 quart of oil and got 810 grams. And then I went through one jar at a time, slowly pouring them out and weighing all the oil that came out of the Cayman and got 5,282 grams. Just like kind of strange, just 2 grams off the number of feet in a mile. No significance there, just kind of a weird coincidence. But that means if we take the 5282 grams and we divide it by 810 grams per quart, we got drained out of the Cayman just a bit over 6.5 quarts. Now you figure that there's probably about a quart that's sitting in the filter canister and up in the galleries, things like that. So grand total, we're up to about 8.5 quarts of oil. And the Cayman was actually a bit low on oil according to the oil measurement. So it appears just from this part of the test that the thing about having to keep the car level is not true. But we still have to do the second part of the test. So now I'm going to lift the car up level, take the drain plug back out because it's been sitting here for a while, and see how much, if any, oil that we get out of it. Okay, then I've got the car picked up on the lift. It's been setting level for a while now. And let's see how much oil we get out now. Okay. Can tell you now that is not going to be much. Okay, we're finally down to a drip, and so we'll put the plug back in and weigh this, see how much we got. It's considerably more than I thought it was going to be at first. And I did look up these gloves while I was inside. They are called Glove Works, and I will give you a link to them in the description below the video. Now, one thing about these gloves is that I really like them for messy work like this, or working with paint or chemicals, but like furniture finishes also. But when it comes to just general work, I don't like them because I just don't like nitrile gloves overall. They're hot, they make my hands sweat, I don't like it. For just general use, I vastly prefer pug gloves. And I'll give you a link to those also down in the description. They're really great. They're ventilated back, they're comfortable, and they're dirt cheap, like $1.15 a pair. I weighed the jar, and then I subtracted the weight of the empty jar that I had gotten earlier, ran it through the calculation, and came up with 2/3 of a quart that we recovered additionally in the horizontal position. So what that really comes out to is that if you just lift the rear of the car and you don't keep it level, there's about 8% of the oil that you don't get. So in that aspect, we've confirmed that the story is true, that you do get more oil out if you keep the car level. On the other hand, I'm not convinced that not getting 8% of the oil is a truly significant thing. On the third hand, to get the car up level, if you don't have a lift, you merely need 2 more jack stands. And so you'd lift up the car, put the rear of the car, put it on the jack stands, go around, lift up the front of the car, put the front on the jack stands. Now you're level, and you're going to get 100% of the oil out. So the bottom line is we've confirmed that the story is true. We're not, or at least I'm not convinced that it's really all that significant. But hey, why not do the job as right as possible as long as you're going to invest all this time and money into a significantly expensive car? Okay, guys, I know I say it every time, but I mean it every time. Thank you so much for watching, liking, and sharing my videos. If you haven't done it yet, please go down there, help me out with YouTube's algorithm. Go click on that thumbs up button, give me a like on this video. If you haven't subscribed, and 99% of you people watching the videos have not subscribed, please go down there, find that big red subscription button, click on that, and join the channel. Doesn't cost you a penny, and it helps me out a lot. And finally, if you want to keep up with everything I'm doing, and it's a weird collection of stuff, and I got something really exciting coming up next week, it involves saying goodbye to the Cayman. But if you want to keep up with everything, go down there, find that bell icon, turn on notifications, and that way YouTube will let you know every time that I post something new from here in Cliff's Garage. I will see you next time.